Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Al Parsai. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant with 10 years of experience as an immigration consultant, actually almost 11 years. I am the author of 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada, which has been identified by Amazon.ca as the bestseller book under the immigration law to Canada. And I also teach at Ashton College. I'm an adjunct professor at Queen's University, but most of what I do is representing clients to immigration authorities, Immigration Refugee Board of Canada. And today, what I'm going to do, as every other Sunday at 10 a.m., is that I'm going to review briefly the news. And if you have any questions, you can post your questions on the chat box, and I will happily answer your general questions about immigration to Canada. If your questions are specific to a case, then I'll probably advise you to book an appointment with me. But if they are general, just please post them in the chat box. You don't need to repeat your questions. When I'm done with answering other questions and also sharing the news, then we'll come back to all of your questions. So stay tuned, post your questions, stay tuned, and then I will come back to you as soon as I'm done with the news. First of all, I want to quickly review the current border measures for people who want to travel to Canada. It's not a bad idea if you know what's going on. Many of the provinces of Canada, like Alberta and Ontario, are introducing vaccination passports, and this means that lots of measures exist against those people who are not fully vaccinated. So if you travel to Canada and you are not fully vaccinated, then you could potentially encounter problems in terms of, for example, going to restaurants, etc., etc. Keep that in mind, that Canada right now only considers 4 vaccines as approved. Those vaccines include Pfizer BioNTech, which, by the way, it's changing its name. The other one is AstraZeneca. The other one is Moderna. And the last one is Johnson & Johnson. So if you have taken these vaccines, fully vaccinated, then your situation is different in terms of traveling. If you are fully vaccinated and you hold a valid visa to Canada or a work permit, study permit, ETA, depending on your situation, if you can travel to Canada, so it means that you have a work permit accompanying with a visa and also a study permit accompanying a valid visa, or just a tourist and you have a TRV or a temporary resident visa, or if you are from a visa exempt country and you hold ETA, if you're an American citizen, then you don't need any of those if you're just traveling to Canada. However, you need to show proof of vaccination. If you show proof of vaccination, this is how it goes. So these travelers must complete the mandatory pre-arrival COVID-19 test and submit their mandatory information. This includes digital proof of vaccination in English or French. Of course, travelers must use the free ArriveCan app or website within 72 hours before arriving in Canada. I will share the link of this piece of news with you later on underneath this video, and I will also post the link to ArriveCan. Please be aware that antigen tests, often called rapid tests, are not accepted. So they want molecular tests, PCR tests. Don't take antigen tests. Also, fully vaccinated travelers who are eligible to enter Canada continue to be subject to mandatory random testing on arrival. So generally speaking, if you're fully vaccinated, you do not need to be tested. You do not need to quarantine. However, the CBSA, or Canada Border Services Agency, keeps the right of testing you or asking you to quarantine and those things after arrival. So you need to have a quarantine plan in place, but in 99.5% of the cases, they will never ask you to actually self-quarantine if you are fully vaccinated with acceptable vaccines. The other one is that if you are already inside Canada and you are traveling for a short period of time to the United States. Because generally, if you're a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or a temporary resident of Canada, and you travel to the United States on your way back, you need to follow the protocols for other travelers. However, if your travel is less than 72 hours, then in this case, people from Canada, so you're residing in Canada, you travel solely to the United States, then and you stay in the United States for less than 72 hours, or in other words, less than 3 days. In that situation, you can take your pre-arrival molecular test before you leave Canada. So in other words, you take the test in Canada, you go to the United States, and on your way back, you do not need to take another test. However, your travel must be less than 72 hours. If it's not less than 72 hours, unfortunately, you need to take another test in the United States. The other issue is with people who are unvaccinated, or they are partially vaccinated, or the vaccinations they have received are not acceptable by Canada. These travelers must continue to follow pre-arrival, arrival, and date 8 molecular COVID-19 tests required and quarantine for 14 days. In other words, if you are not fully vaccinated with the vaccines approved by Canada, then unfortunately, if you travel to Canada, you need to self-quarantine for 14 days. This means that you need to stay in Canada for at least 15 days, unless otherwise they won't allow you enter Canada. Also, you shouldn't be prevented from traveling to Canada. In other words, your travel must be non-discretionary. And so in the future, there will be some changes effective October 30th. The following Canadian passengers and travelers will have to be fully vaccinated in order to board. Air passengers flying on domestic, transborder, or international flights departing from airports in Canada, rail passengers on via rail and Rocky Mountains trains, and marine passengers on non-essential passengers vessels such as cruise ships on voyages of 24 hours or more. In other words, if you are not fully vaccinated and you arrive in Canada after October 30th, then you may encounter problems in terms of going back home. So you have to be very careful with this piece of news. Now, because we have lots of questions here, I need to stop sharing the news with you. Just give me a second. We have light issues here. Okay, so let me answer these questions first, and then I come back with the rest of the news. Okay, so the first question is from Zaidi Abdul Odud. Hello, Zaidi. Hello, Mr. Al. A general question: can someone who is a Canadian citizen on social welfare sponsor someone as a spouse to come to Canada? So the simple answer is no. If you are on social welfare, unfortunately, you cannot sponsor your spouse or your children or your parents or anybody else for that matter. The only exception is that if you are receiving welfare because of disability. So in other words, for example, if you are in Ontario and you are receiving ODSP, that's fine. If you are in other provinces and you are receiving disability payments, that's okay. But any other form of social welfare payments disqualify you from sponsoring your spouse, common law partner, conjugal partner, or other family members. Keep that in mind, though, that if you're currently on social welfare and stop receiving social welfare, then this will be removed. It means that at the time that you initiate the sponsorship application, you must not be on social welfare up until the time that the person that you're sponsoring becomes a permanent resident of Canada. So within that period, you are not allowed to be on social welfare. But if in the past you have been on social welfare, then it is okay if after your sponsored person becomes a permanent resident of Canada, you may still be on social welfare. Okay, so the next question is from AJ. Hello, Al. Does a CEC consider gap first job 10 months completed and second job started after 3 months of employment? Yes. So generally speaking, for Canadian experience class, we don't want to see the continuity of job. Obviously, it is better if we are dealing with a job that has been done continually for 12 months, a full-time job or an equivalent of full-time job. But if there are gaps, that's okay. However, the acceptable job is within the last 3 years. So in other words, when you submit your application, if you look at the past 3 years, you need to show that you have worked in Canada under NOC 0, NOC A, or NOC B jobs for at least 1 year within the past 3 years. So you need to show that 1 year of full-time paid work experience. The jobs that you have done while you were an international student in Canada are not acceptable. Self-employed jobs are not acceptable. If you have been a refugee claimant and you were working, it's not acceptable. You need to show that you had acceptable temporary residence and permission to work in Canada. But if there are gaps, it doesn't disqualify you from doing that job. The next question is from Sanjit Sirchadan. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing your last name properly. So it said, good morning, Mr. Parsai. I recently applied for my wife's TRV, paid the fees and uploaded the same, but haven't received BIL from IRCC for biometrics yet. It's been a week now. So of course, I don't know about the specifics of your case, but generally speaking, when you submit the application online, you should receive the BIL. And BIL, for those of you who don't know, is biometrics instruction letter. So if you have not received your BIL within a couple of days, so it's okay if within 1 or 2 days you don't receive BIL, that's absolutely fine. You need to be worried that why they didn't send it to you, so maybe something is wrong. So if that happens, I usually go on IRCC web form and submit a request to the immigration authorities and follow up on the BIL. And by the way, this has happened to my clients in the past, being said very rarely. It's a glitch in their system. So it's not necessarily that you have done anything wrong. If that happens, then what you need to do is just to get in touch with them, ask for the BIL, and they will send you the BIL. Because you already have the AOR letter, it means you have the file number, potentially the UCI. Even if you just have the file number and you don't have UCI, that's fine. You submit the request through IRCC web form, and then hopefully they will that will trigger the system and they will issue the BIL. By the way, I have a video about how to use IRCC web form. Let me just remind myself to post it, IRCC web form, below this video. But if you just look up IRCC web form, you can find my YouTube video. So the next question is from Kartik. I applied for a study permit, applied for withdrawal due to wrong photo specifications, and filled another application, but just got visa for the first application. What will happen to second application? It's been few days, I got visa, but no updates on second application. To be clear, I never got withdrawal from confirmation for first application. Okay, Kartik, so I don't know what happened in your case. Partly it could be because of the mishmash that exists in Canada right now, because in the past, before COVID, whenever we submitted a withdrawal request, they almost immediately withdraw the application. However, if they have issued you the study permit, congratulations. If there are concerns about what happened, I mean, in terms of the documents that you submitted, in your case, you mentioned the picture. In those situations, I would recommend that you book an appointment with a professional. They need to look into the case and see if the issues could be problematic and how you can resolve those issues. Because if you show up at the port of entry and there are some complexities in your case, then the officer at the port of entry could refuse your entry to Canada under Section 180 of the regulations. And you don't want that to happen. So it's a good idea if you get in touch with somebody who he deals with these issues and look into the case specifically and come up with some answers for you. But generally speaking, if somebody submits an application and they approve the application and they have another concurrent application, then they must get in touch with the immigration authorities and withdraw the second application, because that creates complexities. And what if they refuse the second application? So to avoid that, it's a good idea if somebody withdraws the second application. But in your case, it's a little bit more complex because they issued a visa for something that you already withdrew. So I think it's a good idea if you get in touch with them and try to resolve the issue or ask a professional to help you. Okay, so the next question is from Junaid Khurana. So Junaid says, "Sir, I'm coming to Canada on a study visa for 4 years, bachelor's program. My question is on how many time I will be eligible for PR." I assume that your question is that when you become eligible for permanent residence, when you meet the requirements. So we never know. I mean, obviously, if the passage is through studying, generally speaking, I mean, if somebody is studying a bachelor's program in Canada, the first step is to receive your bachelor's degree. Then if you are studying at a PGWP approved a university, which is likely because if you're studying at a university, almost all of them are PGWP approved. PGWP stands for Postgraduate Work Permit. Then you need to receive your postgraduate work permit. You need to work at least 1 year in Canada with that postgraduate work permit. Then you qualify for Canadian Experience class, and then you can apply under that program. But there are some alternative programs available as well. For example, sometimes you apply for you finish your studies in Canada and you receive a job offer from a local employer in the province that you're studying. And many provinces, they have special programs for international students who receive job offers, and then based on that job offer, they issue your permanent residence. So sometimes PNP or provincial nominee programs are available to international students, and if those happen, then it is likely that you could apply for your permanent residence sooner. Having said that, it's too difficult to predict what's going to happen in the future. There will be changes in the immigration processes all the time and policies all the time. Look, 7 years ago, we didn't even have express entry this time. But now, since 2015, we have express entry. We don't really know what's going to happen to express entry 5 years from today, and also the programs that are under express entry. But right now, as we speak, these are the potential options for you. Okay, so the next question is from Jimmy Phillip. Do you have any update on the processing delays of federal skilled worker outland applications? Not really. They are pretty much all of them are delayed, and partly it's because of the fact that outside Canada visa offices are not fully operative. A majority of them are not processing applications in a timely fashion. I got kind of surprised in a good way that New Delhi finally issued a work permit for one of my clients. That work permit application, was supposed to be processed in 2 weeks because it qualified under Global Skills Strategy or GSS. And guess what? It took them about 9 months to process an application that we expected to be processed in 2 weeks. So unfortunately, the processing times in a very uneven kind of situation, and especially for federal skilled workers, because before even September 7th, we didn't have an option for people to travel to Canada if they were approved. But right now, unfortunately, they are not processing most of those applications. Even Canadian Experience Class, some of the applications under Canadian Experience Class are not being processed in a timely fashion. Now, a majority of my clients under Canadian Experience Class inside Canada, they get processed under a year, in some cases even under 6 months as usual. But I have a couple of cases that they extended beyond 1 year, and one of them is almost 1.5 years waiting to be processed, which is very odd, to be honest with you, but it could happen. So even inside Canada cases, sometimes they take a very long time. For example, I have a temporary resident permit and a temporary resident permit application that is waiting to be processed for more than a year, which is weird. I mean, and it's an inside Canada case, but that's the way it is right now. So not all of the applications are delayed, but many of the applications are delayed. So the next question is from Charbel Bustani. So can an asylum claimant inside Canada apply for a work permit while waiting for the hearing date? How much time should I wait until I can apply for the PR? So the simple answer to the first question is yes. So a refugee claimant is entitled to a work permit, but they need to be referred by IRCC to the immigration authorities. So this is how it goes. When somebody claims refugee at the port of entry or inside Canada, an immigration officer reviews the case, interviews the person, and if they find out that that person is eligible to apply for refugee, then they will refer the case to IRB. And I should write this because I have an article about eligibility of refugees for referral. I will post the link below this video as well, but you can visit settler.ca, our website, and read that article. But anyways, if you go through that process, so in the past, the process was fairly quick. So for example, you applied for a refugee at the port of entry within 90 hours or so, within 3 days actually. Somebody interviewed you, and at that time they referred you to a Refugee Protection Division of Immigration Refugee Board of Canada, and at the same time you applied for a work permit, and then within a couple of weeks, or maybe at most in a month or a month and a half, you received your work permit. So from the day that you claimed to the day that you received your work permit, it was usually anywhere between 1 to 2 months. So that was before COVID. Nowadays, the situation has changed. So nowadays, to be very exact, starting from October the 9th, so what we need, or October the 8th, what we need to do is that we need to create an online application account for you, and then upload all the documents and forms and everything, including a request for a work permit, which is under a form called Schedule 12. And then when we submit all the applications, they review the application. They will, after a while, they will invite you to do biometrics, which is usually 2 to 3 weeks or 4 weeks after we upload all the documents. And then after you do biometrics, again, it takes them another 2 to 4 weeks to invite you for an interview. And then when they interview you, if they find you eligible to be referred to the court for refugee hearing, that's when they initiate your work permit. So in other words, you could receive your work permit. The earliest that you could receive your work permit is about 3 months from the day that you submit your refugee application. Sometimes it could go beyond 3 months. In terms of permanent residence, after you are referred for a hearing, you need to attend the hearing. And then after you attend the hearing, then they look into your case, and after looking into your case, if the board member or the judge, if you will, reviews your application and find you eligible for as a protected person, that's when you can apply for a permanent resident, and that process could take months before getting approved. So if you get lucky from the day that you file for refugee, it takes you about 1.5 years to become a permanent resident. Some people, of course, could become permanent residents sooner, and for some, it could take years before they actually see that beautiful PR card. So that was, I tried to be as brief as possible. Okay, so the next question is from Baris Media Network. After elections, thought processing will run very fast, but still the same. Why? I got approved for PR on March 2020, no interview or medical exams. Yeah, so generally speaking, election has nothing to do with the policies of Immigration Refugee Protection Department. So of course, depending on the government, I mean, general, very broad policies could change. Let me fix the light. Sorry. Oops. I made it worse. Okay. No, yeah. Okay. So generally speaking, yes, the kind of government could make some major changes to the policies. But in terms of how the process is moving forward, it all depends on the administration. And administration doesn't change by changing political parties. It's these are the officers, employees of the IRCC and CBSA that have been working for IRCC and CBSA for the past few years, and they probably continue working for this system for the next few years. So election will not have any effect on in terms of how they process applications. And also in this case, in this election, nothing changed, the same government. So you shouldn't expect any changes in generic policies about immigration to Canada, because the government is the same government, and in the specifics of processing of applications, because it has nothing to do with the election. So the next question, or actually this is from Behnam Dabestani Zadeh. Oh, hello Behnam. خوبین شما. I assume that you speak Farsi. So the next question is Muazzam Ali. That's what is the time to issue LMIA in Vancouver for outland candidate? Lastly, once a work permit is issued, how long time we need to land in Canada? So the LMIA, or labor market impact assessment processing time, nowadays is relatively quickly done. So in most cases, it's about a month to 2 months. Now, there are exceptional situations that they may process the application sooner or later. Of course, if it's under the global talent stream, they usually process the applications in 2 weeks to 4 months, 4 weeks, sorry, not 4 months. And so for global talent stream, it's quicker. For the rest of them, it usually could be anywhere between 1 to 3 months, 1 to 2 months. It depends on the case. Honestly, it's very difficult to predict, but generally speaking, it's fairly quick. But when you receive your LMIA, then you need to apply for a work permit. An application for work permit depends on nationality. If you are qualified to apply at a port of entry, for example, you are from a visa-exempt country like Western European countries, or from the United States, or from Mexico, or Chile, or Japan, then in those situations, you can just take all your documents, go to the port of entry if you're fully vaccinated, and at the port of entry at a Canadian airport or land crossing, you can apply for your work permit and receive your work permit almost immediately. But if you are from a non-visa exempt country, in this case, you need to apply online. And when you apply online, it depends on the visa office that is processing your application, and it could take several weeks, in some cases a few months, for them to process your work permit application. For example, if your application goes to visa office in Abu Dhabi, or if your application goes to the visa office in Ankara or in New Delhi, unfortunately, the processing time could be a very, very, very long time. But if you are dealing with an organization, if your application goes to, for example, case processing center in Edmonton or Ottawa, in those situations, their work permit will be processed fairly quickly. So nobody can predict for how long it will take them to issue the work permit. But the process of LMIA is relatively fast in most cases. Okay, so Sanjit asked another question. I took your consultation a few weeks back and might need to one more as I need to visit home country in December, and was thinking it would have been issue while coming back as I don't meet the 730 days criteria. Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Sanjit. Yes, please just get in touch with me and we make arrangements. The next question is from Hasibullah. Amani, hi, how nice they politely, the Ankara office has not started the processing. No, unfortunately, Hasibullah, they have not. I mean, at least for me, I haven't heard, I haven't seen any processing from Ankara office since mid-March. So think about that. And I have had clients that they supposedly needed to be processed in Ankara, like clients from Turkey, clients from Iran, obviously, but they ended up in other offices. Their application ended up in Ottawa. In those situations, they quickly processed the applications. But for those clients that they were stuck in Ankara, we have cases that are stuck in Ankara. So in some cases, for temporary residence for more than a year. I have cases of spousal sponsorship that are stuck in there. So it's a very bad situation over there, unfortunately. So Behnam, I don't know what is your question, because the first one was hello dear people, and then the next one is when can I apply again? When can I apply again for what? Unfortunately, I don't know what is your question. So Sydney asked, where is your office in Vancouver? We don't have an office in Vancouver. Our main office is in downtown Toronto. We are located at 100 Richmond Street West, Suite 308 at Sheraton Centre in downtown Toronto. We are in the financial district of Toronto, the intersection between Queen Street West and Bay Street, if you will. But we are on Richmond Street, which is parallel to Queen Street. We are actually 100 Richmond Street, and Google is 111 Richmond Street. So we are opposite to Google. And we also have a franchise office in Edmonton. David, my good friend, is just handling that office. So if you are in Alberta, you can get in touch with David. If you are outside Alberta, or if you want to get in touch with me anywhere in Canada, then you can reach us through our through our Toronto office. And generally speaking, I was going to open an office in Vancouver, but we encountered COVID-19. And thanks to COVID-19, nowadays, everything is online. Even my Torontonian clients, they don't go to the office. They book appointment with me online. I rarely have a meeting in the office, in fact. Yeah, we don't have a physical office in Vancouver. Our physical office is in downtown Toronto. So Irfan says, I need your guidance in respect of seeking immigration of Canada. Can my wife sponsor me if she is on government support in Canada? So Irfan, generally speaking, somebody else also asked this question in the beginning. Zaidi asked this question. So if the permanent resident or Canadian citizen who wants to sponsor their spouse or children, they are on social welfare. This means the support that they receive from a provincial government for the basic necessities of life. So that could be food, that could be shelter, that could be the actual money that they receive from the government. If any of those are happening, unfortunately, the person cannot sponsor anybody to Canada. The only exception is that they are receiving those funds because of disability. So, for example, in Ontario, we have something called ODSP, or Ontario Disability Program. I don't remember what this stands for. But if somebody is receiving ODSP, then yes, that's fine. They can sponsor their spouse or children to Canada. But if they are receiving social welfare, unfortunately, they cannot sponsor their spouse or family members to Canada. So it looks like that we're done with the questions. Before I see another question, I will go through the remaining one thing that you need to know in terms of express entry is that unfortunately express entries looks like to be kind of on hold. I mean, they have not since the beginning of September, they have only invited 2,000 Canadian experience class applicants, no federally skilled workers, no federally skilled trades, and only 2,000. And even for Canadian experience class, the lowest CRS score jumped high to 462, if I'm not mistaken. So this means that right now, express entry is kind of on hold. The only applicants that are invited constantly under express entry are provincial nominee program express entry applicants. So these are the people who are in the pool of express entry, but a province selects them, and then that boosts their points up, and they also move from a regular express entry application to express entry PNP application. And the last round of invitation was on October 13th. The government invited 681 PNB candidates to immigrate under these programs. But unfortunately, the express entry itself, they have not invited many people in the past almost 40 days. So in the past 45 days, actually, in the past 45 days, only 2,000 people were invited. So if you want to check out news, just visit settler.ca. We have a section dedicated to news, and you can read that as well. We have a journalist. Her name is Andrea, and Andrea constantly contacts different organizations, reviews different social media sources that are reliable, contacts reliable resources, visits reliable websites, and based on that, she collects information and she posts news on a daily basis. So it's a good idea if you visit our website and check out the latest news that we post on our website as well. And if you want to hire me, or if you want to book a consultation session, again, you can visit our website, settler.ca. My name is Al Parsai. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I have almost 11 years of experience as an immigration consultant. I teach at Ashton College. I teach advanced immigration courses at Ashton College. I also teach, I'm an adjunct professor at Queen's University. I've recently been appointed, and this is my life: teaching, consultation, and of course representing clients. So far we've had clients from 54 different countries, and I represented those clients to for all different kinds of immigration or work permit or study permit or visa or TRP or rehabilitation or ARC, you name it, I've done it. And also I represent clients to Immigration Appeal Division and Refugee Protection Division, which is a court-like system for immigration issues. Thank you again for attending this live session. I will be back next Sunday at 10 a.m. Toronto time. And at that time, we can review the latest news. I can answer your questions. And also, if you speak Farsi or Persian, Iranian language, Afghan language, and Tajikistan language, I go live on Instagram on Fridays at 10 a.m. Toronto time. Thank you for watching this video, and see you next week. Bye.